says, Shimmy says, Shimmy, Shimmy, Shimmy says, ask me almost anything.
Hey everyone, it's Shimmy, and welcome to another Shimmy Says. You know, I wanted to talk this week about something kind of near and dear to me, and that is DevOps. You know, I started DevOps.com. I first published DevOps.com in March of 2014. Been working on it a while before that. And I mean, hey, timing is everything, right? I was fortunate and lucky enough, and it's better to be lucky than smart sometimes. I was fortunate and lucky enough to be in the right place as DevOps ascended and became ascendant. And, you know, over the last 2 years, we've heard, you know, first there was that whole DevOps is dead thing to get platform engineering oxygen, but that was pure marketing. But we've seen, let's say, less of a emphasis on DevOps, less attention on DevOps. It almost is just there. And that's not necessarily a bad thing for technology, because I think it shows a level of maturity where people don't necessarily question it. No, you don't hear, what is DevOps? Does DevOps works? Yes, it works. And a lot of the DevOps companies, you know, call themselves DevSecOps companies because that works too. One of the things, though, that, you know, gets me going is so much of the chitter chatter, so much of the oxygen getting consumed out in the social media sphere is by analysts who, you know, purport to cover the space. And I'm not saying they're dumb or bad or anything like that. I just question their view of the space. And, you know, recently I've had a chance to run into that twice in the last couple of days. Before I talk about it, though, I do want to highlight a story that does get DevOps right, and it's my story, surprise, over at DevOps.com, and it's about my good friend John Willis. You know, one of the greatest gifts that DevOps has given me is the chance to meet the people who really pioneered, the OGs of DevOps, if you will. And other than Patrick Dubois himself, couldn't think of a bigger OG than my friend John. He really did so much to lift DevOps up. And, you know, he had a LinkedIn post the other day reminding us yet again, 12, 13 years after I started DevOps.com, that it's not just about the tools. It's about the people. It's about the culture. It's important. It's not lip service. If you don't pay attention to the people and culture, you don't really have DevOps. You just have DevOps tools. And like any other tool, it's just a tool. So, you know, John, and as I said in my article, in many ways, John is still the true north, the North Star for DevOps. He hasn't lost sight. You know, him and Damon brought us CAMs and everything else. And so much of that fundamental foundational work around DevOps and DevSecOps is still true today. It's true whether you're a platform engineer or an AI engineer or SRE or anything else. DevOps is there. People are using it, and it works with all of these things. Now, on the other hand, though, I saw two analysts this week put out stuff it showed up on my LinkedIn feed. One was a Gartner analyst who he's calling it like he's a doctor in the emergency room and the patient died, that shift left is dead. We should all be so dead. Shift left has succeeded. Shift left, if you were here when we started this thing, you know, is the fact that we're going to start looking at security further left in the production pipeline. Now, what I think he really meant, and he just, in typical Gartner fashion, maybe is trying to grab a headline or some click, is that developers are not security people. Newsflash. Stop the presses. We've been saying that for 3 years already. We can't expect security people we can't expect developers to become security people. They care about the quality of their code. No one wants to deliver insecure code. And what we found is if security companies make security tools for developers, it doesn't go over so well. And I think many companies have found that, and they've pivoted and come back to it and done it right. Companies like Sneak, for instance, right, are really have fine-tuned that really well. But moving security further into the development pipeline is not dead, and it's not a bad thing. And when you get a firm like Gartner coming out and saying this, well, I got to tell you the truth. I question how much they know about DevOps. And if you look at the history of DevOps, Gartner's never been one of the leading lights in the DevOps space anyway. So, yeah, developers aren't security people, but the rumors of Shift Left's death are very premature. And I think we'd be better off without that kind of clickbaity stuff. Another analyst, and it's actually someone who I respect from IDC. I'm not going to mention names, but he came out with a DevSecOps market report just this week, I believe. And here's the good news. The total DevOps market he has pegged at $27.6 billion, up 18.4%. I'll be honest, I think that's a little conservative, but all right. I'm not, I don't consider myself an analyst, though I did stay in the Holiday Inn Express last night. But let's go with his $27.6 billion market projection. What gets me is, here's his market analysis. Here's the companies he covers as the leading lights in the DevOps tool space. And I just want to make sure I get this right. Leading vendors in the DevOps software tools market, yes. And here they are. Microsoft, Atlassian, Datadog, Dynatrace, Broadcom, IBM, and New Relic. All good companies. Are they the leading lights in the DevOps space? IBM hasn't mentioned DevOps in about 3 years. They've moved away from DevOps. They're into other things. Datadog's a leader in observability. Atlassian, Jira, absolutely. I could see that being in there. Dynatrace is a decent company. New Relic, they've had their ups and downs, but let's call them what they are, an observability company. Microsoft, I'm not sure if he's talking about Microsoft Azure DevOps or GitHub, which is part of Microsoft. Or maybe he doesn't consider GitHub a DevOps tool, though it's clearly a CI/CD tool. But how can anyone put out a report on leading companies in the DevOps space and leave out companies like GitLab, JFrog, CloudBees, Harness, Octopus Deploy from GitOps, DevSecOps companies like Sneak, as I mentioned, how many other DevSecOps companies that we cover constantly here on DevOps.com and Cloud Native now and Platform Engineering. How do you do a report? And granted, he has rest of market represents 55% of the report. How do you even put out this report without mentioning the leading DevOps companies? So to me, this is either tone deaf. Maybe these are the companies that subscribe to them for research. I don't know. But it's not the DevOps market that we follow and track here on DevOps.com. Now, I know what you're going to say. Shimmy, you guys are part of Futurum. You're an analyst firm too. Yeah, we are. The guy who covers DevOps here is a guy you've probably seen him if you've been around Techstrong. His name's Mitch Ashley. You ask Mitchell who the leading DevOps companies are, and he's going to tell you. And I guarantee you, he'll name most of these, but he's going to name most of the ones I named too, and then some. I don't think these analysts do us justice or themselves justice when they put out reports or statements like Shift Left is dead, etc. you know what? DevOps isn't going anywhere. DevOps is well settled. You know, it's just part of the way we do things. But I expect more in a world of AI where these guys can go out and do research pretty easily to have better information, better conclusions. As a matter of fact, with AI, I don't know how much longer we're going to be relying on these kinds of reports, because I think AI could pull this data themselves. We spoke about Futurum Signal, I think it was last week or the week before. This is the AI up to second reports instead of getting a report here in August about the 2024 DevOps market. How do we, as an industry, function on reports that talk about things that happened at best 9 months ago, 8 months ago? It's beyond me. Anyway, here's a little advice. You want to keep up on the DevOps market? Read DevOps.com. Watch our DevOps Unbound, Control-Alt Deploys, Techstrong Gang, Cloud Native. Now, we cover DevOps every day. You want to stay on top of DevOps, follow what Mitch Ashley's doing over at Futurum. Because if this is the best they got, it's not good enough, guys. I'm sorry. You know what? Shimmy's never short of an opinion. I call him as I see him. Is garbage. We're out of here. Have a great week.
Shimmy says, shimmy says, shimmy, shimmy, shimmy says, ask me almost anything.